Let's break down the New York Knicks in the offseason here and what they could possibly do to take the next step. And that's sort of where they're at for the last few years since I think Julius Randle arrived in town. They've been on the up after, up and down. They sort of bounce around, sort of depending how he goes. And adding Jalen Brunson now has given them that real second, well, I'm going to say second all-star. He didn't make the all-star team, but he probably should have. But second All-Star and second star there to pair with him. And this year they probably exceeded expectations to an extent. But they're in a position here where they probably don't have any huge moves they can make, nor should they make any huge moves to to sort of to swing for the fences at this point. They've clearly got the core in place. I think they've got the principles in place on how you're supposed to play to be successful. They're very sort of defensive orientated. They're happy to sort of grind out games and score 100 points and get the job done in an era where teams are much more commonly now scoring 120 a night sort of situation. And I think it's little upgrades to the roster that they're probably looking at making in this offseason. And I don't know where this lines up with you and your love for the trade machine, but I guess right now I think firstly the position of need that they have to fill here is the two spot in the shooting guard position here. I think it sort of was clear that they have players at this spot. Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, obviously Fournier buried on the bench is not playing at all. They all play this spot, but in the second round when they played the Heat here, that they got very little consistent production at that spot, and it's probably time to really look at can they bring someone in that sort of at the two spot that could be a real defensive stopper, perhaps. Someone that maybe gives them a little bit of grit, someone that can play alongside Brunson but doesn't take away the shots and the ball in his hands as much in that sort of sense. I think that's sort of one of the roster spots and fits that they're looking to fill here. One name that popped into mind here that could be someone to look at, and I know he's not a huge guard though. Is like, could they sign Pat Beverly? Add a player like that sort of with that sort of resume and that sort of personality to this bench to sort of really toughen them up a little bit. It feels like the Knicks sort of rolled over a little bit in the series against the Heat. They faced adversity there. There was no one really that was going to get in the other team's face a little bit and just push back perhaps in that sort of sense. And you feel Pat Bev has that sort of personality that might be able to, that would probably react in that situation when when you're down a game in the series and something like that to really try and throw something a bit of aggression at the other team. I guess obviously from a sense of a trade here, I've got a trade on that I've come up with obviously moving Fournier. Fournier's been sitting, like I said, at the back of the roster rotation here, doing nothing for them since they signed him a few years ago, really. And I look, it works. All right. Here's the thing with the trade machine, right? It works even if it doesn't necessarily make sense for the other team because I'm talking about the Knicks right now. Okay, so but if the Jazz here are obviously looking to continue to fire sell the roster and acquire picks, it actually works that you could send Evan Fournier to the Utah Jazz and look at bringing someone back like Markkinen. All right, their contracts work, and obviously you'd send probably a few picks and as well to the Jazz, probably a handful of picks actually to the Jazz to sort of pry him away. Look, like I said, this is I'm not saying this is going to occur, of course not, but I guess that a player like Markin again, if you could add without subtracting any of their core players, I think that would be a good step for the Knicks to take in the offseason.
I think we're in similar parts. The Knicks are an interesting team in which the Brunson pickup's huge and there feels like a bit of a culture shift. Randall came back after a real down year, and now they've been to the playoffs consecutive years, and they won around, and where do we go from here? And I acknowledge the guard situation as well. I felt like Josh Hart was a great acquisition. There's obviously a close relationship between him and Brunson, so there needs to be some signing there. There's a lot of interesting defensive stats and rebounding stats about Josh Hart, and he did have that real hot streak of 3-point shooting. But trade machine, yeah, I felt the trade machine burning, burning in the back of my head, so I had to do something. And I feel like Julius Randle does need to move on. He's your $20 million a year guy. I think there's pseudo value in him being all NBA, but I don't see him and Brunson working well together. I think anyone who's watching this video, if you live track any game with Julius Randle, the general consensus is he takes bad shots or he's not really doing as much as we want. He's a box score filler, and you look at his stats and like, how could you want to trade a guy that has like over 20 points a game and has 7 rebounds and made third all NBA team? But it's one of those, we talked about this a little bit before with an Orlando Magic discussion that sometimes you have good players that look good, but aren't going to do anything for you when it actually matters. And if the Knicks are serious and they're trying to progress, they they aren't going to go much further with Julius Randle, especially in an East with a lot of different players. So Randle's on the block here, and the rationale is the team that I'm trading him to, because in my head I've made sure my entire league is operating still and there's no conflict of interests and all this. I'm sending him to the Clippers because the Clippers did a big blow up in a previous video, and in return they get Norman Powell, which is a very big guard to go alongside Jalen Brunson, and they also get Batum. And another perk of those two contracts is they're a little bit shorter than the Julius Randle one as well. So Batum can sit on the bench, just like Evan Fournier is, but at least he's off the books after a season. But you hate it, so tell me why.
I know you're trying to work this perfect parallel universe world, but I, we you're trying to improve the Knicks right now, and you've just traded Julius Randle, two-time All-Star, for Batum and Norman Powell. Like, have you actually looked at that trade on paper? Not that it just went green on the trade machine, because
No,
because
look, I
because
think, well,
they're not even spots of need. They're not even spots of need right now. What would you do with these two players? That you just log jammed an extra guard on a team that has multiple guards at that spot that all want to play and need to play, but he's equally as ineffective in that sort of role. He's not, if you'd sort of, I can't think of a name right now. Like, if you traded him for some big guard that's going to be a defensive stopper that you pair them alongside Jalen Brunson, and you're saying this reiteration of the Knicks is going to go further than the Brunson Randall pairing right now, maybe I'd take your argument. But you're literally saying Brunson and Norman Powell is going to go further than Brunson and Julius Randle. No way. No way. Where's your argument? You got no argument. That's the point, right?
no, look,
So that's
I think, no. You gotta give me a chance because what I think, what I think you're missing, what I think you're missing is Norman Powell is a bigger guard, 6'4". Obviously had that 40 piece against the Phoenix Suns in the recent playoffs, and is under contract for 4 more years, but at a very low clip, right? And I think that's one of the things that motivated a lot of my trades over the last thing is that you don't want to be locked into things because right now you're locked into Brunson and Randall for the next 4 years. Honest opinion, are they doing anything other than a second round exit in the next 4 years if everything stays the same?
I think if you make minor tweaks to this lineup, you're now looking to your next bar set for the Knicks is make conference finals. Okay, so you made the second round, you eliminated second round. Can you make small tweaks to take the next step, conference finals?
Yeah. Hold on. I said, do you think they're honestly going to do it? Not what their aspirations are. Every team's trying to win a championship, dude. It's what are they actually going to do in the next 4 years with this exact same lineup?
I think you hold the course. I think you
Okay.
you
All right. That's fine.
I think you would win more games, okay, with what you got now, even if it doesn't win a ring, okay, because 29 teams aren't going to win a ring every year, right? Okay, even if you don't win a ring, okay, you're literally saying that, all right, so Brunson and Randall couldn't get past the Heat. So Brunson and a slightly small, bigger guard, 6'4", he's not even that big. All right, Norman Powell, okay, you're not saying SGA, okay, all right, is going to then get them past a team like the Heat.
So, sorry, I just got some indigestion. I think one of the other things that happens as well, we acknowledge there's some youth on the bench that really isn't getting much of a run. And so you're worried about the guard situation. I think the one that I worry about a lot is Obi Toppin. I think there's real potential there. I think he's had a really good run, and I think Randall not being there really allows him to get a bigger role and acknowledged, right? Julius Randle win projection probably helps the Clippers more than he helps the return of the Knicks. But what I'm saying is these contracts are smaller. It means you can do something in a future year because I think some of these teams, at least the way that I approach them, I think you've approached every team as, oh, what's going to give them the best shot to win the championship next season? And I know that that may have been the brief, but I think the reality is knowing that 29 out of 30 teams don't win the championship next season, it's about setting them up for success moving forward. Or in my mind, I wanted to set an upward trend for each franchise. So Julius Randle had a good season after a very poor season. And he is on 20 million. He's had some ankle surgery. I think you could sell somewhat high at this point. You get a good player in Norman Power back. You get Batum, who will become an expiring next season, along with the fact that he's a bit of a veteran and may be able to do something for you in that wing position. I don't think it's a terrible trade. You can chuck in some picks if that helps. You can't really do that with the trade machine. But we've talked about the Knicks a lot, and I'm ready to move on.
I'm not ready to move on right now. Did you look at? I just put in your trade for you into a trade machine, and I know it goes green. Trade is successful, right? You know at the bottom it also says the analysis of the trade. Did you look at the analysis of your trade?
Yeah, that don't mean anything, dude. Okay,
Did
there's too
so
many
so
variables.
so that said, that would take your Knicks, which you're currently managing in this off season, to nine less wins. So from 40 something wins that they
Generous.
managed back to 30 something. So you've taken them back about 10 wins here by obviously trading out their all star, their only all star on paper, and bringing in two role players, one that's aging and obviously one that's an undersized guard. I think so here, let me give you a counter proposal. We haven't gotten this far yet. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a counter proposal. We were trying to make the Knicks better, okay? You want to bring in Norman Powell and you want to bring in Nicholas Batum. Yeah. All right. You're saying these two are good players that, vets that could, bolster this team, give them that sort of, veteran leadership and so on and so forth. I'm not arguing that point at all. Okay. They're players that have been in the league for many, many years and, know what it's like to be a pro. Okay. What if they traded Norman Powell or they traded for Norman Powell and Nicholas Batum and they sent out Fournier, which is a huge contract that they don't need anymore and they want. All right. Hardenstein and Obi Toppin. And that goes green and you keep Randall. Now suddenly, okay, now you've got a trade that actually makes the Knicks better.
I think this is one of those interesting situations where when I'm throwing it back. When I trashed Jordan Poole, you were anti that comment. You were like, how can you say that? I think that that comment aged well. If this is my public record that Julius Randle is overrated or is not going to help the Knicks as much as you think that he is, that's fine. I'll stamp it right now. I think New York gets off Randle and they're better for it. That's my opinion, right? That's the joy of the internet is that people can share their opinions and you just have to kind of live with it. And I'm sure someone will share their opinion about this if they disagree or if they agree with me and disagree with you. So exciting times ahead for
Yo,
both.
this is two guys with spare time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.